So that's the hippocampus taken care of. Then we've got the amygdala. Anybody heard of that?
Yeah.
That's the centre of the fight and flight response, okay? Now we're going to dive into that in a bit more in a minute. And then we've got another bit called the hypothalamus, and that regulates the chemicals that are released into the brain, into the body, okay? So altogether, those bits are known as the limbic system, and the limbic system does lots and lots of stuff, but it's important to understand that what it's responsible for is keeping you alive and safe. Because it might sound in a minute when I'm talking about this like it's kind of got it in for you in some way, that it's causing problems, but everything it does from the perspective of keeping you safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to look and see how this works in reality. So let's say that you step outside in a minute, you're walking back down the road towards your car and everything's good. And, actually before that I'm going to step backwards a bit. Okay, so what I want to talk about is, would you recognise it if I said that within you it's almost like there's a positive version of you and a negative version of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Every day. Every lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, so we do that, don't we? Because it might be, oh, Joe, I've got this, I'm great, this is brilliant, and then the next minute, oh, I'm so rubbish, and everybody hates me, and everyone's judging me, yes?
Absolutely.
So everybody experiences this, okay, in some way or other, and you could think about it like having two different characters living inside you. One of them you could say is like the human mind, which you could say is like sensible and positive and organised and compassionate, and it's connected to the intellectual resource, and when you're using that bit everything goes pretty well. And then there's another bit which you could say is the emotional mind, or the childish mind, or what we call it here the monkey mind. Yes. And so one of these two guys is always driving the bus, but they swap around, okay? It could be one guy driving the bus 1 minute, and then the next guy switches in when something happens. Yes, so you could be saying, oh, I'm so good, and then the next minute, no, you can't do that. You took up my car parking space, or whatever it is. Yes, we wig out, yes? So we're switching between these two different guys, okay? Now, let's imagine then, let's look how the limbic system works. We're walking down the road in a minute, we're walking back towards the car, and a 9-foot polar bear jumps out in front of you. What's going to happen?
Slam the brakes on.
No, you're walking back towards the car, and you're not in the car yet. You're walking.
Freeze and then run.
Yeah.
Basically.
So what would happen if we slowed it down? What's happening is this. You're walking down towards the 9-foot polar bear, jumps out in front of you. We're taking in sensory information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, okay? This sensory information is before it goes to your sensible bit of brain, it goes to this other bit of brain, if you like the limbic system, it goes into the hippocampus, where it says, is there any danger? And this says, oh yeah, that's a predator, that's dangerous, is that? So that then, the hippocampus triggers the amygdala, fight and flight response. So, and that's where the monkey lives, if you like, the monkey mind lives. So instantly you go from the human being in charge, bang, the monkey takes over. It doesn't ask the human for permission, it just takes over. It wakes up the hypothalamus, it asks for a massive shot of adrenalines, bang, you get this big shot of adrenalines as the fight and flight response is triggered, so that you've got this extra energy and strength to fight the threat or to run away from the threat. Does that make sense? Now the other options there, it's also known as the fight, flight, freeze or faint response, because you might freeze, like you see a rabbit in the headlight, freezes before it runs, or you could even faint if you think, oh, no, can't deal with it, I'm going to faint. Because obviously what you're then doing, predators attack movement. So this is based upon going right back to here. If there's a predator looking for me and I faint, which means I'm still on the floor, the predator might not see me, because they attack movement. So if I'm really still, so these are all survival mechanisms, yes? So this has happened then. Your sensible brain, your human brain, hasn't even registered at that point that there's a threat. But before it even registers in the sensible bit of brain, the monkey mind has taken over, pumped you full of these stress hormones so that we can run away from the polar bear and get back in the car, lock the door, go screeching off, and we're safe when we get home, okay? Now hopefully when we get home then, we tell somebody about it, we calm down, we have a cup of tea, and then hopefully we switch back into the sensible mind. the human mind. But when we go to bed that night and we pull the Barbie doll princess up, the duvet up to our nose, what happens? Do we think about the polar bear?
Yeah.
And what do we think?
All the bad stuff, how you could have dealt with the situation better if you're using the polar bear as something, analogy for something, how you could deal with the situation better.
So yeah, but if we were thinking about the polar bear, would we be thinking, gosh, wasn't my limbic system amazing because it released exactly the right mixture of neurochemicals in a split second so I could get away and I was safe? What would it be thinking?
Well,
What if?
Yeah.
What if, oh my God, what if I hadn't seen it in time? What if I, had my 4-inch heels on and I didn't run away? What if it had got hold of me? Would it have ripped my leg off? Would I be dead? Oh my God, what if I go back next week and it's there? What if it's followed me home? What if it's in the garden? What if I forgot to lock the door? Do you see, we start to think about things like this, don't we? And then, if you were thinking about that when you were lying in bed, would you be nice and relaxed? Lying in bed? What would you be feeling?
Anxious, stressed. Yeah.
Right.
Worried.
So you're anxious, stressed, worried, even though you're lying in bed and there isn't a polar bear. Yes? So we can learn a huge amount about our brains with this really simple analogy. First thing we learn is your brain is obsessive. Everybody's brain is obsessive. It wants to think about something constantly. And what things does it like to think about? Things it sees as good or things it sees as not good?
My brain, not good.
It's not just your brain, honey pie, it's everybody's brain, okay? The brain is obsessive. It's obsessive, okay? Everybody's brain is obsessive.